Hello, friends. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Michelle Fondin, and I'm the author of 12 published books, including these little beauts, The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, an easy guide to a healthy lifestyle, and the companion workbook. These books are celebrating their 10th anniversary here in 2025. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you for subscribing below. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications, and thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. I teach meditation online on demand, and if you want to understand why a mantra-based practice works, I have a universal mantra sneak peek, and you can click on the link to try it out to see if a mantra-based meditation practice makes sense for you. Today, we are talking about how does Ayurveda work to heal your body, mind, soul, and spirit. In other videos, I've talked about an overview of Ayurveda, what it is, and an overview of the doshas. But you might be wondering, Michelle, what the heck? How does this thing even work? You're talking about all these elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth. You're talking about these doshas, the mind-body types, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, but how does it work actually? How can it make me healthier? And how can it complement what I'm already doing with Western medicine if I have a health issue? Well, I'm going to outline it for you in this shorter version of a video that could be several hours long to really describe to you how Ayurveda works. In the overview video, and I'll post that link here if you haven't yet viewed it, I mentioned that Ayurveda works with the 5 elements called space, air, fire, water, and earth. According to Ayurveda, everything on planet Earth and everything that connects us to the cosmos is comprised of one or more of these 5 elements. Now, of course, the element air is pure air. The element of fire is pure fire. But these elements interact with each other to create movement, direction, solid objects, and so on. So not only are you as a human being comprised of the elements of space, air, fire, water, and earth, but everything else around you is comprised of these elements as well. The food you eat, the water you drink, how you are in relationships, your emotions, for example, your physical environment, your job, other people. So we are constantly interacting with the elements in all the spaces and places around us. So how Ayurveda works for your specific mind-body type and to maintain balance and optimal health is by maintaining the balance point for you. Some might call this your genetic code. Ayurveda calls it your mind-body makeup or your doshic makeup. It is also called the prakruti. Now, of course, the translation or the transliteration from Sanskrit to English is often spelled differently. I'm going to spell it out for you here, prakruti. And that is your true nature. That's like your baseline. That's where you start. So for example, if you are a Vata type primarily, then you have a lot more space and air element in your mind-body system than the other 3 elements, which are fire, water, and earth. And if you are a Pitta type, you have more fire and water than the other 3 elements. And if you are a Kapha type, comprised primarily of water and earth, you have more water and earth in your mind-body constitution than the other 3 elements. Now, of course, there are variables. Human beings are different. And so if I am primarily a Vata type and you are primarily a Vata type, we might have different proportions of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha in our individual mind-body constitutions. But typically, you know what feels right for your body when you're feeling in optimal health. You just know this intuitively. You wake up, you're feeling vibrant, healthy, good. You have no ailments, no symptoms. You're just rolling through the day, feeling pretty good. So that would be your baseline. Now, how Ayurveda works is using these elements in yourself and in other things, objects, people, places, animal, and things, and to measure up against what is making you maintain balance versus imbalance. Let me give you an example. Right now, it is autumn here in the Northern Hemisphere, and in the autumn, the leaves begin to dry up on the trees. There tends to be more wind, more air blowing around those leaves. The air gets crisp and chilly, especially at night. And so one might say that the elements of air and space are increased in the autumn. Now, they're beginning to increase, and so someone who is a Vata mind-body type might start to feel uncomfortable. They might notice that their skin is a little bit drier, their eyes are more dry, that they're feeling a little sickish or out of sorts. They might get cold more frequently because space and air are cold, right? Outer space is cold, it's not warm. So what happens is through your exposure to your environment, people, places, animals, and things, you can have an increase in something you don't need increased. So of course, like attracts like, and when you are starting to feel out of sorts, your Vata, in this case, would increase, and you don't need your Vata to increase because you already have enough Vata. That's your primary dosha. And so as your skin gets drier, you're starting to feel colder, you might start to feel a little bit more anxious with all that wind blowing around, and then you start to go out of balance. So Ayurveda would suggest that you rectify this by perhaps drinking more water to counteract the dryness, right? The opposite of dry would be wet. So you want to counteract the dryness by having more wetness, eating more wet foods. So what does that look like? Maybe eating more hearty soups that are wet, obviously. Eating more foods that have a natural moisture content in them, such as squash, has a very high water content. And so you can do things to like counteract the exacerbation of the elements that you already have enough of in your mind-body type. So that would bring to us the law of opposites, right? The law of opposites would be when you feel like you have too much of a specific element, you go to the opposite element for the cure. And so that is how it works when you're dealing with an imbalance. Now, that is the simplified notion of how Ayurveda works, but it really does work in that simple manner. The solutions are sometimes more complex than that, because if you're not well versed in the practice of Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine, you might not know which foods have which elements, which exercise programs have certain elements that might be present. Or, for example, herbal remedies have certain criteria and the elements that can help you. And so you might not know that exactly. And so for you as a layperson just learning about Ayurveda, it might be more complicated. But really, it's very simple. It's about bringing you back into balance to your natural set point. Now, we are constantly moving from out of balance to balance, and Ayurveda works best in prevention. Ayurveda can also be curative, meaning if you have a disease, we can work as Ayurvedic practitioners, or if you go to an Ayurvedic medical professional, we can work to help get you enough into balance that the body self-corrects. But by the time disease is well advanced, typically it's more than one dosha that is out of balance. And so it can be a little complex to try to get your doshas back into balance so that you can then move to your set point. And as you move towards your set point, the body will naturally self-correct. It'll naturally self-heal. And so disease is the very advanced stage. Feeling out of sorts or slightly out of balance or feeling that something's not quite right, or it's the beginning stages of you, for example, like not sleeping well or feeling overheated or feeling too cold, or feeling that your skin is starting to get dry, or that you might be feeling a little more heartburn or acid reflux. So when you are in those beginning stages, it's relatively easy for an Ayurvedic practitioner to help bring you back into your natural state, because these are minor fixes that you're working with. And certainly there are many things that you can do on a daily basis for prevention. And those are many things that I mention in my book, The Wheel of Healing with Ayurveda, as well as the companion workbook that helps you with diet, exercise, meditation, mindfulness, choosing the right exercise program for your dosha, and so on. So there are certainly things you can do to maintain that balance on a daily basis so that things don't move so far off kilter, because the fact of the matter is things are constantly changing. The earth is spinning on its axis. The earth is hurtling through space, right? We are constantly changing weather and seasons, and we often change the foods that we eat. We try to eat healthy, for example, for a few days, and then we might go off and eat a bunch of junk food or drink alcohol or have things that are really unhealthy for us. We might start with an exercise program and then forget to exercise for 6 weeks. We do a lot of things that perpetuate imbalances. But if you are proactive, Ayurveda is great for being proactive. Ayurveda is wonderful for catching the imbalances in the very early stages before you can visually see disease erupt. You might feel out of sorts. You might feel that something's not quite right. You might have a beginning of a symptom, but not compounded symptoms that are typically the result of something way, way more advanced. So each element has its principle and purpose. Remember the law of opposites. So if you are a Pitta type, if you have a lot of fire and water in your mind-body constitution, you tend to be really hot, you sweat a lot, you could walk into a room and just feel that it's too warm in there. You might get irritated and angry easily, or you might feel frustrated and that people are wasting your time. You like to be efficient. If you have too much, if you have already enough of the fire and water element as a Pitta type, just remember law of opposites. It means that you could use more of the space, air, and earth elements to help counteract or counterbalance your fire and water. And that's really all you need to know about how Ayurveda works, because while the system is super simple, it becomes complex as you add the layers of life. And the layers of life is everything I was talking about. We move through life in an environment. We have an outer world. We have interactions with other human beings. We have food and movement and water and other things in our lives that can meet us at the level of complexity that might bring us out of balance. So if you're cognizant of how you feel when you're feeling wonderful, great, in balance, and in optimal health, then you have your baseline. And if you understand your mind-body type, what your natural state is. And there is a test in this book on the introduction to Ayurveda, so you can take your mind body type test. And in the companion workbook, there's another test you can take to get to the state of where you are now, which is often a state of imbalance. Often. Because if you're curious, if you've been wondering about your health and how to correct it, typically it's because there's a sense of imbalance there. So I hope this was helpful in getting you to understand a little bit more about how Ayurveda actually works. I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. Click on the bell, scroll up to all for all notifications. And thank you for giving the video a thumbs up. Thank you for sharing this video with others who might be interested in body, mind, spirit health. Thank you so much for your support on my YouTube channel. You can purchase one of my 12 published books. All of my books are available on Amazon. Most of my books are available on Ingram Spark. And check out my website. There are many, many resources that you can draw from. And I will see you in the next video.